Hey ho, hello there. We are on air. My name is Shelby Stokes, the Nonprofit Network.
Kelly Schenfeld.
Polly Schenfeld, gang. Welcome back. Good to see you, as always.
Welcome. Thank you for being here with us. We have an audience member here today.
You may hear noises in the background.
Things
The
are
Ivan
really
is
a
getting
little
ready to do his podcast.
We do know some glasses hit the ground. There's only one lens in those glasses right now.
One shoe's missing now.
And now there's a shoe missing.
And a
So,
little cough.
Roboy, he's clearing the pipes. Things are getting real. Today we are going to talk about ego, and to some extent, we have been jumping into a couple of rooms that have very big footprints in regards to things being well executed in a community, raising a lot of money for certain organizations, and with that comes some ego-based dynamics that I think we want to talk about. So this is kind of going to be a little bit catered to members, people that are in the biz, if you will, and trying to navigate some egos, both of ourselves as providers of services, as well as dealing with egos on the other side of the table, which could include procurers of items, donors of items, and also people bidding on items.
Yeah, I'll jump in first if that's okay, because my ego would not allow me not to. But I think we start with talking about bidders in the room.
Okay.
And I think that what we are seeing, and it's trending actually right now, is that people are wanting to bid and be seen being the bidder, but then when you turn to sell it to them, or they are all of a sudden, whoa, no, not me, right?
I was just helping.
Yeah. Well, that is actually becoming, at least for me and my husband, a common. And we just this spring, it's more common than I've ever seen it. And so, one of the ways to handle that is that that when that's happening, we are dealing with somebody that may have an ego, right? Either that or they drank too much. But typically it's somebody that's wanting to be seen bidding. And so what we started doing with that is you can't go out there and say, hey, put your ego to bed, dude. We're here for the right reasons, right?
I mean, you could, but you'd probably get fired.
Yeah,
exactly. Hey, park your ego. Put your bid card down.
Yeah.
So are you going to tell us how you work around that?
So how you work around that, how I'm working around that, and how my husband's working around that is we're making sure, and it still fails sometimes, but I'm making sure I go to the table. And if, let's say it was a double, right, or something, I try to remember the bid number of who's bidding, because these rooms are so big right now. I know it's hard to do, but
it's very hard to do. I mean, I applaud that effort, but I mean, how do you keep that in your mind, as well as what it's selling for, what number you're on, if you can double it, and then you also got to keep in mind who the backup bidder is?
Yeah, and typically, when we're in the room.
In the round.
In the round means the stage is in the middle of the crowd and you are basically on a swivel.
Yeah, what I think the important part of that, though, is to go to that person and say, well, will you honor your previous bid? Because you were bidding, will you honor your bid? It puts them a little bit in the hot seat with the people that they're trying to look impressed with, but or they're trying to impress, or I'm not sure what's going on there, but and this weekend I got told no.
I mean, that's a very good perspective on like an individual backing out. I can say that is definitely like someone that is able to have a conversation with one of those people, because as somebody that is on the microphone, like trying to sell one of those items, you can't be so graceful. You
cannot. No. And that's where your ringman comes in, or your bid spot or whatever comes in so invaluable. If that's a training thing almost for our members that are ringmen.
So you went to ask somebody because they had bid, and then you went and asked that individual if they will honor that bid?
Honor their previous bid. So he was at $3,500, and we came back to this guy, and he was strong, right? He had his card up. And I said, he's going to do a second. Do you want this second? He says, no. I says, okay, before I even ask, I already knew the number we had to get to. Will you honor your previous bid of $3,000? And we'll just back it up to $3,000 and sell it. And he says, no, I don't think so. I've got other stuff in the catalog I'm looking at. And I said, okay, well, I appreciate what you did do. Are you sure you don't want this second one?
Appreciate what you did do.
And
I'm hung out to try, man.
No. And he said, thank you. And I shook his hand. and then at the end of the night,
How-
after all
How
the
stiff
items,
was that grip? Are you just like,
yeah, no, man.
have a good night, sir. Have
he
a good
knew.
night.
No, I told him I left it by saying, well, I'm sorry to hear that. That's disappointing. That's exactly what I said. I didn't discipline him, but I said, I'm sorry to hear that. That's disappointing, but I'll check back with you at the end of the auction.
Yeah.
And I think he thought I was full of crap.
Full of
I almost said the S word there.
crap.
But
Full
I
of
did,
stuff.
in fact, go back to him in
Okay.
between the auction and Fund a Need and say, I see that you didn't buy anything else that you were looking for in the catalog. Would you now like to honor your
Brilliant.
bid?
And
And he said no.
And he said no again.
boom, baby.
I punched him in the face.
Were you like, verbal contracts aren't binding in the state of Washington?
No, so I just said, okay, I'm going to remember you.
No,
Next year.
No, we don't. We just roll over and take care of the customers.
We do.
Let's
We
be
roll
real.
over and take care of the customer.
So
But
this-
that's
I mean,
one
this
way
could
to at
get-
least bring light to it, you know?
I mean, this has been happening, right? It's been happening to Jim. It's been happening to Randall. It's happened to
Everybody.
me. Like, it's happening for all of the individuals that call it auction this year. Like, you are up at a high price point. You go to sell that item, and then people come back and be like, no, I was like half of that price.
No, you weren't.
And you're like, well, we just like played the game all the way up to a very high number. And then we go to resell that item, and it brings half the
Half the money.
value.
Mhm.
And it's happened time and time again.
It is happening more and
So
more.
I don't know if it's like a reality check, like these people don't know what's going on, but you actively have two bidders that are going all the way up to this high place. You're hammering it, and then they're coming back and be like, no, I was half a value. Well, I didn't hear you. And you're like,
Well, see, one thing I'm doing, yeah.
You heard us.
And
Wow.
one thing I'm doing that I haven't had to do before,
Yeah.
that I've done more this spring than ever, is I'm going, when we're at a high dollar amount, right, I'm going to them before market's selling it, and I'm saying, you're aware you're in at $4,500, right?
Right. Yeah.
And they say, yeah. And then I'm like, because I'm going to punch you in the face.
I mean, you could even we could dig a little deeper into this. You could get into the legalities of this.
Right.
Somewhere in a lot of the catalogs, it says you will raise your hand until the auctioneer recognizes your bid.
Yeah, and then they
But
would
you're-
tell you to
But you're in a
stand.
charity
You're
auction.
a charity auction.
Yeah.
You can't hold somebody. You can't screw them to the wall on that. Like, okay, so we have a little bit of experience in the car auctions, right? And those are professional bidders on product. And when something like that happens in a professional bidding environment,
Watch the tape.
you're done. Like, you are buying that item or you are not invited back. In a charity auction, you're never going to get away with that.
No.
You're never going to
Absolutely
get away
right.
with that.
You're never going to be able to point out at the beginning of the night. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if I recognize your bid, by God, you're in.
But
I mean, you're never going to be able to do that.
No.
But
No,
this
I
is
don't think you
also the reason
But you
why
want to.
it's important, I think, even if, even the small ones, it's important to have that support person with you. It really is important to have a support person with you.
I agree.
It really is. And I know that not all contracts
Well,
carry that.
So, like, this, I don't want to get into the weeds on this, but essentially, like, you are a much more experienced bid spotter than
Well,
darn near the majority of the people on our team. Like the consistency in which you conduct a bid spotter role is like 3 to 4 times fold what a lot of our team members are going through.
and that's why I can
Right.
suggest this.
That's why I can suggest this. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, like, if you are a bid spotter, know that this could fall on you to be a huge ad. As somebody that is put in a situation where you don't necessarily have an asset like yourself, I sell that item knowing that every bid that came in is 100% accurate. And then when I go to sell an item and it doesn't come to fruition and that last card doesn't come up, I'm reselling the item.
Yep.
Because 9 times out of 10, that card is going to come up and that sale is going to be final. In the 10% of the time where that's not going to be the case, I have to just take my losses and move on. I'd rather sell 10 items at 40 grand and miss one than not go to that number. Does that make sense?
It does. So as
Yeah.
auctioneers, how do you feel about it? Because this happened to us this spring.
And this fall, I remember you had one this fall that was a little rough.
When,
And they rebooked. We were all surprised.
well, yeah.
Oh my God, they rebooked it.
It was like, huh?
But I mean, you got in a situation where you basically had to have a conversation with a bidder who was throwing their bid card up all night,
Yep.
bought a couple of items, and multiple times said, "No, that wasn't me." And you had to basically not ridicule, but you had to correct somebody over the microphone, which is something we do not like to do.
We do not
That's
do
like
that,
the
but
last
this-
thing you want to
this
do.
was-
I remember that.
This was
Yeah.
important only because that same bidder, after we had to back down and go back and sell it, because that's what we had to do. We
Right.
had to back down about $3,000, right, and start all over. Wanted to buy it for half the money,
Yeah.
and so we did everything we could to make sure that that individual didn't get it, because at that point that individual isn't understanding why we're here. And that's something you as a bid spotter or even an auctioneer over the mic can, it's a sticky wicket, but Mark will say, hey, I saw your bid card up, this is for the kids, or I saw your bid card up, bidder 420, and he'll even say a number of 426 or 502, you were bidding. So where are you? And people are going, 502, Bill, that's you. Bill.
That's your number right there.
So you want
That's
to
you.
also create
Yeah.
pressure at that table on that individual.
Because Bill's not allowed to bid anymore.
Bill is bad boy.
But I guess like the reason I wanted to the reason we are discussing it here is this is a situation that's happening time and time again right now. And I don't know if it's because we have a weaker economy. I think it's probably because we've come off a very strong economy and things are starting to kind of get a little shaky. So maybe people still want to feel like they are all powerful, can pay that amount of money. Yet when it comes to pay the piper, it's not coming through.
right.
So if you are putting on an event or a person working an event, know that this is happening. And the only way that you're going to be able to navigate these waters with a customer is by communicating it with the customer. Hey, this is what happened. I had this individual in. They said that they weren't in. I had them in. We had to resell it. Because 9 times out of 10, that customer is going to ask, what the heck happened? You
Yeah.
had this item up at a huge number, and now you're selling it at half. What happened?
What happened?
And it looks like a mistake on the team, and that's not a mistake our team normally makes.
Yeah.
Not to say other people don't make that mistake, but that's not.
We
common
definitely
for
don't
us.
make mistakes.
Well, we've
Let's
made
talk
a few.
about the
somebody
other
in
part.
your case, because of your experience, you could probably sniff this out, and maybe you could walk back there and say, "Hey, are you really serious about buying this, or are you just trying to help us out?"
Yeah.
You might be able to just throw it right in that person's face and see what they say right
Right.
in front of all their friends.
9
Oh,
times.
no. Yeah, I want a bit. Okay, good. I just want to make sure. Or, no, I'm just helping out. Then at least you know, and then you can go to Mark and give him some sort of sign like, this guy's not for real.
And you can fix it right there.
Yeah.
Right? You can fix it before you say sold, and then you got nothing, because then you have to go back and start it again, redescribe the item, resell it. But if you get a tip halfway through the selling of that process, ladies and gentlemen, I had 30 grand. I'm actually at 20. My apologies. Who give 22 and a half or 21, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can kind of back it up. And we're using some very big examples right now.
We
I
are.
have to say. At least I am.
Yeah. But let me just say, speaking of what you just said,
$30,000.
now let's talk about the other side of ego, and
Okay.
that is check your ego at the door. And this is based towards our members. And it does take ego, even for a ringman, because you're screaming and yelling out there in the crowd, and you're
Ego's
really,
not a bad word.
Ego is a good word. But make sure that
It's a word.
it is a word, but
Yeah.
we all have to have it. The guy on the mic's got to have a bunch of it. But, it takes ego also, I'm aware of that, to run around and communicate with people like that and push people like that and do all that. But we had an experience where we needed to check our ego at the door after the event because there was a goal, and we fell short of that goal by $100,000. We did, however, make a lot of money for them that night, right? But we beat ourselves up for hours. I mean, after the auction, the next day we did, still when we were writing the report, all of it. So that's that ego piece that as auctioneers and ringmen or bid spotters, whatever you choose, check your ego a little bit on the front and on the back. If you're beating yourself up and you absolutely did the best that you could do for that organization and you gave it your all then be okay with what the numbers said. As well as when you're on the mic and you're the big dude in the room, you're just a tool. Well, that could sound bad, but you know what I'm saying? You're a tool.
Sounds like you need to have a conversation with somebody.
No, you're a tool by the organization to carry through with what they had started into motion. So your ego is important because it gives you the ability to stand up there or go out there in the room. But do remember, it's a sticky wicket and a fine line. So make sure you're not bigger than the organization, and you're not more important than what we're there to do. It's not your show; it's their show. And you are the entertainer. Don't disagree with me, you little shit.
I think that like wanting to do good and achieve goals makes you a powerful resource and force.
Yes.
I think that your goal being what it was at a number and falling short of that number is going to happen regardless of whether you made decision A or decision B. But ultimately, we as a person providing services, we want to do the best we can to achieve those goals, and sometimes we fall short. Sometimes we make decisions that in hindsight, you're like, oh, maybe that could have gone better, but the fact of the matter is, you'll never know.
You'll never know.
So you're making the best decision you can at each portion of the path. So in terms of like checking your ego, yeah, like I hear where you're coming from. But at the same time, like you have to continue to try to do good. And if you fall short, know that it's just one instance.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think that this could be easily confused with confidence.
Okay.
Ego and confidence. If you are the auctioneer and you go in with a particular amount of confidence, which you need to
Absolutely.
in order to be successful,
Required.
depending on the perception of somebody on the outside, could see it as like, well, this guy's got this huge ego. He thinks he's right about everything. I have found a way around that through communication. You give a reason why you disagree, or several, and then you listen to to what they have to say as well, and you come to some sort of common ground. Unless it is something that you believe is going to be a game changer and really can adversely affect the outcome, then you do stick to your guns and say, no, I believe this is a bad idea, and here's why. But I think don't mix up ego with confidence. You're hired there because you are going to be confident. They're going to be confident in you. You're the professional to make the right decisions.
Yeah.
And when things happen, be flexible.
Yeah.
Communicate well.
Yeah.
It's not always your way or the highway, I guess. I guess I was trying to
That's
tie the
accurate.
two,
No, it's
ego
very
and,
accurate.
and confidence together. One could be mixed up with the other depending on one's own perception.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we go back to ego because people essentially tie ego to like presentation most of the time. I do like confidence more than ego.
I do too, because ego's a bad word, it feels like, and it's not.
Well, ego means, oh, what a prima donna. He's got
Right,
such an
that's
ego,
not it.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's where that comes from. It's like people eye roll at people with big egos. Like, oh, he needs brown M&Ms only in his suite. You know, there's like, there's that kind of thing that ties into ego. But you need to have a level of confidence to execute in what we do. Like, you have to. Like, we are comedians, we are presenters. And if you came out like a wet blanket, it's not going to work. Like, and I've had those nights where your ego is not in bloom and you go out and you fall on your face. That happens. You know what I mean? It happens to all of us.
Just make sure your confidence/ego is organization-based and not self-based.
You can really positively affect your own confidence by being completely at 100% prepared. First of all, check that off your list.
And then
You got to
can
be
still fail.
prepared.
And then you can still fail,
And
right?
you can
And then
still
you
fail.
can still fail.
But like
right?
you said earlier,
Like,
if I look at myself in the mirror and say, I'm not going to sweat $100,000 because we raised 1.4
Yeah.
and they wanted 1.5, but in the end, I did the best I could,
I mean,
right?
Still doesn't feel that way though.
I know. So let's unpack this a little bit because I was also $100,000 shy of my goal.
You were.
Yeah, I
You're
was
just
also
now sharing that.
yeah, I was $100,000 short of my goal. Right now, in terms of like the expectations of the client, they got an impromptu gift of $100,000 last year. So they were kind of just factoring in, okay, we're going to grow by 10% and we're going to do everything we can. And then that gift does not, those pennies from heaven don't come in. So all of a sudden I'm
For
back
sure.
a book, right? So with that said, like, how come I can walk out of my show and feel good about it and you can walk out of your show and not feel so good about it? I think it's because you were in a situation where you were brought in by people that you consider friends and you want to do good with the opportunity.
Yeah.
Right? So they brought you in as some special type individual. Right? These people walk on water. They're going to totally revolutionize their life. But it sets you up for failure,
It
right?
does,
Because
it
you
does.
walk
That's a good
in and you
point,
do all you
Shelby.
can and it's and no matter how hard you try in that situation, it's going to be hard to feel good about it.
Yeah. No, you're right.
That's a good point.
Well, we would have felt good about it if we would have raised another $100,000.
Well, I mean,
That would have felt great.
yeah. So, I mean, I feel for you because I've been there, and we all have the scars as presenters. Like, I can tell you a handful of gigs that I have not invited back to, and it's because they got a bad review for one reason or another, and you try to learn from it, move forward. But this is like a what's the word? Not narcissistic, but what's the word where you like punishment?
Oh, God. Masochistic?
Yeah, you got to be a little masochistic to be in this business. You
You
know
do
what
have
I mean?
to be a
Like,
little
you got to be just a
masochistic,
little
yeah.
bit. Like, I can count better than everybody in this room. Watch me go.
Yeah.
10, 25, 30. Bitta, right? So, I mean, there is a little bit of that. But ultimately, know that, like, you have to protect your ego. You have to proceed with confidence. You're going to go through the bumps in the road. Like, you are hearing from people that are
Living it.
40, how many years in the business?
Oh, Mark and I?
Yeah.
Him 30, me 22.
So 30 years, same 30 year. I mean, these are not like we're new in the game, but we don't really know. Like, this is like lifetime experience and still going through this.
Yeah,
So,
and maybe
that's a
that's
good point,
why
too.
you don't maybe that's why I handle like that bitter like I handled him. Years ago, I wouldn't have done that. I would have been like, oh, it's just, I'm so sorry. That's what it's not a car. You saw your big car.
I'm
My
sorry.
mistake.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, no, you were bidden. We all saw it. Did everybody see it? Yeah, we all did. Okay, so are you still good? Because we all saw your bid.
Yeah. So I mean, I think we've kind of turned into like how our egos are portrayed in the room, but there's so many different like
Didn't have anything.
ego management, egos coming together in these ballrooms. Like, we were both, not to toot our own horns, but we were both at events that did over $1 million in fundraising this weekend. And I think that like the egos that are involved in raising that kind of money, from a corporate backing, from an entrepreneurial background of people in the community that are capable of giving these sums of money, like, you inherently have a huge
in a room of
ego
egos.
some kind, right? And it can be a large ego that says this is how it's going to be. It can be an ego that's very fragile, like somebody that's really insecure and they've stuffed it with all of this business success. Like, there's a lot of different pieces at play. I mean, I have in my notes to kind of discuss like people that are giving items and have an over exaggeration on what that item will sell for.
Yeah,
I had
you
a
ran into that,
I had a package that was valued at $22,000 and it was a private visit to a jewelry store, and they were going to give you a $2,500 credit per couple, so 4 people, $5,000 in credits total, and they were going to shut down the store and give you a private shopping experience.
Yeah.
With dinner included. $22,000.
Yeah, no.
Like,
Let's do the math. 5.
Like, and that's not to
plus-
say anything.
Let's just
right?
say dinner was $5,000.
But I mean, like, so all things considered, how do you get to $22,000?
Yeah.
This is a very prominent jewelry store, and it may be a little bit of a self-inflated ego because they have painted themselves as the best jewelry store in town. Therefore, their value comes to this.
And we're closing our shop for you.
Well, right. And when we go to a fair market discovery, if you don't have everybody that agrees that that is a top shelf item in the community, you are put in a situation where there is an ego check of that donor.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot in these ballrooms.
It is happening
And I don't
a lot.
mean to just beat up like this one organization,
it's happening all
because I
over.
appreciate the donation and I very much appreciate all they do for the community, but it's happening all over.
Yeah. We had a guy that wanted to give $100,000 a few weeks ago. He wanted to raise his bid card, but he doesn't want to be recognized. but he wants his bid card to be called out. He wants people to see him raising his bid card, but he does not want his name called.
I had that this weekend.
That was so confusing for me. I'm like, well.
I had a guy last weekend who wanted to present a challenge at $1,000. I could use it anywhere. 4 people at $250, 10 at $100, 2 at $5, or whatever.
He gave you $1,000 challenge?
It was $1,000. The whole gig did $25,000. It's a smaller gig.
Okay.
But his stipulation was only new money.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Trying to get creative.
Have you ever heard that?
No, I'm not sure how I like that.
Yeah, I don't like it at all.
Because how the hell do you know what's new
How
money?
do you know?
That's the accountant's job. Good luck with
Yeah.
that. Well, that's not my job. Yeah, so I know we're kind of all over the place. In closing, I want to give one more example because we're on it. But we had an organization this year or just this last weekend, where the chair of the organization didn't feel like it was worth the time to collect donations at $1,000. You have a room of 500 plus people, and you don't want to take the time for $1,000 gift towards a cause. I think that is kind of like, you should probably check reality.
Yeah.
Like,
whoa.
Yeah, right? And like the suggestion was like, well, we just want to get to the party. I get that. I understand that. We all want to go dancing. But
yeah, let's get the money first.
Let's make sure we're here for the right reasons. So I know we kind of meandered through this. All that to say, we could talk for hours on ego, but there's so many shades of gray, and you're bumping into big egos when it comes to fundraising. Period. End of story.
At all angles.
Yep.
At all angles. So learn how to deal with it, right?
Yeah.
With yourself and with customers.
And if you're on our team, don't berate people over the microphone. Don't berate them if you're a bid spotter. Don't talk down or be rude or disrespectful to people. Find a way around it and smile and say thank you. But don't ever do it over the mic, okay?
Yeah. Yes. Keep it clean.
Bid 10,000. All in, all done. And we have sold $10,000. 5? You cheap son of a... Get out of here.
Yes,
Seriously?
Exactly.
We're raising money for the kids. Really?
Yeah.
I want to do that one time.
I think that would be fun to do that.
You son of
I'm going to send my wife over there to smack you.
Yeah. How dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you? Anyway, there you go. Thanks for spending the time with us. Sold, you bought it. Don't ever back out of a bid ever.
Yeah.
That's our advice to you.
It's a legally binding contract when you raise your hand up.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's a law.
That's right. Okay. Well, thanks for joining us this week and every week. My name is Shelby Stokes.
Kelly Schenfeld, keep your heart right and your vision clear.
All right. Be good to yourselves, gang. Take care. We'll see you next time.
And go do good. See ya.
Bye.
We out. Bye.